let's see, sorry. Okay, Coconino County, Kim Musselman.
Present. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, thank you. Coconino County Citizen Representative Carol Covington.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. City of Flagstaff, Greg Clifton is expected. He said he may be a few minutes late. City of Flagstaff Citizen Representative Michelle James.
I'm here. Good morning.
Metro Plan Dave Wessel is expected. I think we'll see him in person soon. NAU, Aaron Stone.
Good morning here.
Good morning. NAU student Carly Vandermeesh. Not sure if she'll be with us or not. So I will mark her as excused for now. CCC, Kurt Stull. Morning. And our Economic Development Representative, Gail Jackson, is excused. We have members of staff here in the beer room and online. And we also have our attorney, Cameron Stanley, with us. Cameron? Okay. So City of Flagstaff, Greg Clifton.
Good morning.
Good morning. And I'll turn it back to you, Chairman.
Thank you. First item is our safety minute. That'll be Cody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of TAC. I'm filling in for Sam Short today. Today is February Safety Minute #1, fire prevention. This winter has been uncommonly dry, and as we get closer to spring and summer, the need for fire prevention is becoming more and more important. It is crucial that we all take extra care to prevent wildfires by using some of these important safety tips. No outdoor burning. Do not light any campfires, bonfires, or fireworks. Clear debris around your home. Remove dry leaves, grass clippings, and other flammable debris from your property to reduce fire risk. Be cautious with equipment. Use care when operating lawnmowers, weed trimmers, and other equipment that may spark, especially on dry grass. Report suspicious smoke immediately. If you see smoke, report it to authorities right away to help prevent potential wildfires. Stay informed. Follow local fire restrictions as they update on weather conditions that could increase the fire risk. Together, we can protect our homes and the environment. Let's be vigilant, protective, and preventing wildfires. Thank you and welcome to the February Transit Advisory Committee meeting.
Thank you. Next item is milestone. Heather has a couple milestones.
I do. Thank you, Chair and members of the Transit Advisory Committee. Today we have 3 milestone anniversaries to share with you. All of the individuals on the screen are celebrating their first anniversary here at Mountain Line. I'm gonna go left to right. Lorena Reyes is in our planning team, serving as Associate Transit Planner. She's doing a lot of grant writing for us right now and managing our mobility programs. Serena Boynton, I'm probably saying it wrong. So I apologize if she's listening. Serena works at our front desk and helps with accounting duties, but Serena also has gifted us with her talents on the marketing side. So if you follow us on some of our social media, you are probably seeing images that Serena is creating, as well as messages. Her creativity has been embraced by our agency and we're grateful she's here. And the last one on the right-hand side is Violet Curley. Violet was hired as a transit operator a year ago. She's really been primarily acting in our paratransit side of the programs. She was willing to put off her CDL training to assist us at a time we really needed a paratransit driver. And so we look forward to getting her trained on the CDL program, but are forever grateful for her presence in our paratransit team. And she does a phenomenally great job with our customers. And that's all I have for milestone anniversaries.
Thank you and congratulations to all 3 on their 1-year anniversaries. Next, we have call to the public. We have nobody in attendance or online for public. So we'll move on to the next one, and that's the approval of the TAC minutes for January. Are there any changes, corrections, additions that we need to do for January's minutes? Hearing or seeing none, I will ask for a motion to approve the TAC minutes as presented.
This is Erin. I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
This is, okay.
Thank you all.
Who was?
Yeah.
Carol. I thought Carol beat him.
Carol, okay.
Can you take a vote?
All right, okay, all in favor of approving the TAC minutes, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Anyone, not in favor? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Next item is the, review of the, draft board business agenda. The consent agenda, we have nothing, if, I should ask first, do we have any questions on the consent agenda? There are 2 items listed there. Having no questions, we do not have to vote on the consent agenda. That is done by the board. Next is discussion action items, and the very first one is August 2025 service changes, and Jackie.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. Members of the TAC, Jackie Leonard, Deputy General Manager, talking to you today about a very exciting topic that we have not talked about in quite some time, which is service changes. We've been pretty stagnant for a while with our current routing system, so really excited to bring this item forward. And as just a reminder, so this is part of the service changes I'm going to show to you today are being made possible by the successful passing of Proposition 488. Which you'll recall was on the November ballot. We do not start collecting that tax until July 1st of this year. So the couple of changes that I'm going to show you that are related to that are ones that don't require us to amass any capital or significant coffers in order to implement those changes. There are things that we have put some significant time into already, in hopes that we would be able to make this change eventually, or things that are just really insignificant in the terms of, they're significant to our riders, but insignificant in the terms of our overall budget and having to amass the capital to make those changes. So we are bringing this to the board this month because as part of service changes with our Title VI plan, we do need to we have a public comment period when we're making changes that trigger Title VI. So Title VI is the equity program, and so when you are reducing or increasing service by 25% or more in an area, it triggers Title VI. Not every single change that I'm going to show you today does trigger Title VI, but we're packaging it all together as our August 2025 service changes so that the public can see what we are proposing to do. So like I said, we will ask the board to open this public comment period. It will remain open for nearly 60 days. The requirement is 30 days. Because February is a short month, we do not have 30 days between the February board meeting and the March board meeting. So we're going to, there's no harm in leaving it open longer. It gives people more time to comment. So it will be open for nearly 60 days. And just a little note, there on the consent agenda, there was an item related to our Title VI plan, a minor update that was made because of something with Metro Plan's Title VI plan, and that does not impact anything that I am speaking about today. All right, so getting into the excitement of it, the service changes. So this first one, Route 2. So Route 2 is our route that if you ever take the bus to our office, you're going to ride Route 2. So it originates at the Downtown Connection Center. It goes up over Cedar Hill, then across on Lockett, Cedar Forest, Lockett, all the different names of that road, and then up by our office and out to the mall. So for several years, we have done this what we call a deviation. And is that what you see in the pink there? The original intention was to better serve Basis School. When we started this deviation, Basis was pretty much the only game up there on the Mesa, and they do not have traditional bus service. So we would do in the morning and afternoon, we do a deviation to serve that school, and we don't miss any stops at all on our regular routing, but we added those 2 stops right by Basis so that the students could have an opportunity to ride. So over time, there's a lot more development. If you've been up on the Mesa, there's going to be a brand new school. Flagstaff Junior Academy is moving up right next to Basis, should be opening in August. There is a veterans home, there is senior housing, there, all sorts of transit-friendly uses are being developed up on the Mesa. The challenge with the Mesa is the no left turn from, and I should have, from Pine Cliff. Okay, I get all my, when the bus is going back towards the downtown connection center and it does this deviation, it has to double back on us, on the route basically, to come back up to Gemini where there is a light. That's by Buffalo Park. There is that light at Gemini and Cedar in order to make the left-hand turn to continue heading towards downtown. It's really bad transit to double back on yourself and on the route that you've already come down. It obviously, it's convenient for those who are using it for basis, inconvenient for those who are using it for other purposes. So two things to this proposed change. One is that we are proposing that for right now, we only do the deviation when we are heading towards the mall. So the bus would only come in, it would make the right from Pine Cliff onto Gemini, stop right by basis, and then come out and Gemini further up by Buffalo Park and make that right, be able to hit that stop 7 that's right there. And we would do it every single round. It would no longer be a deviation, it would be the permanent routing. These schools all have wacky start times and end times, and they can never quite get it sorted out. Like basis has a 0 hour that they sometimes be able to communicate to us. And, so we've really had a hard time matching our deviation to when these students actually need it. So this way it's there all the time, only one way, but it's there all the time. And it is completely feasible if you are an able-bodied person, which we realize not everybody is, to walk to either stops 24 or 7 or 25 or 6. One's uphill, one's downhill, depending on which way you're going. So that is the proposal. Simultaneously, we do have some grant funding and we are kicking this off with Metro Plan to do a feasibility study about a left-hand turn off the Mesa. So at Pine Cliff, which is that further, southwest part of that loop. So it's a big need, and we want to permanently serve this area in both directions. That's the best solution for transit in the future of this area. And so we are just kicking off a feasibility study about, could there be a transit only left-hand turn? Is there some creative solution that could allow our buses to not have to double back on themselves? So that was a lot of words for a relatively minor change, but there's a lot that is going into that one. So we're still looking at the timing of everything on that one to make sure that it won't overall impact our route to timing in a negative way. So we're still analyzing all of that. Any questions on Route 2? Okay. Moving on, so routes 4 and 14. These are our routes that run in opposite circles, starting in downtown, going either up or down Milton, up or down Lone Tree, over, by Walmart, a Beulah area. They make opposite circles. So, with the addition of the new roundabout that is open in the extension of Beulah, our work with the city over many years, there's beautiful bus stops that have been added. If you've taken the roundabout, you've probably seen the beautiful bus stops and the beautiful bus only lane that is part of that project. So it would be a shame for us to not move our route when we have all of those resources. And Milton is notoriously our most congested road in Flagstaff. So this gets us off Milton earlier. There are those 2 stops. There's a lot of residential, a lot of apartments in that area near those proposed, the stops that are already built, to be honest. They're built as part of the roundabout project, stop in pink, stops 4 and 15. A lot of residential around there. It would mean the closing of those stops you see in black, stops 4 and 15, which are, if you're heading north on Milton, stop 15 is right by the mobile station. So like a little bit south of In-N-Out and all of that. Stop 4 is very awkwardly placed in the right turn lane as you're going from Milton on to Forest Meadows. Our team, Lorena being part of it, and a couple of other staff members actually went out to those stops to go interview riders about what the purpose is of where they're coming from, where they're going to, and ultimately they're not very well used stops. And we found that most of the trips that those individuals were taking they could easily use other stops, either the new 4 and 15 that are in pink, or the stops at, near Walmart and Olive Garden. So we did not find any significant, reason to not close those stops. Any questions on that one? Okay, I have no pretty picture, but this is like one of the most exciting ones, and it will have a pretty picture on the website because this is made possible by Proposition 488. So every route in our system, except Route 5, has at least 30-minute peak frequency, which means during the weekdays from roughly 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. roughly, a bus will come at least every 30 minutes. Some routes are more frequent than that. Route 5 is an hour. So it's really not super convenient. As a reminder, sorry, Route 5 starts downtown. It goes by the hospital. It sort of meanders around Thorpe Park, serves Clark Homes, and then goes out Highway 180, making stops along the way out to Cheshire. Our fall as students ride Route 5. And then comes back around. So it is our lowest ridership route, and it's very much a chicken and egg thing. You know, if you add, and our belief is that if we add frequency and make Route 5 more convenient and match our system better, it makes it easier for people in that corridor to ride and to make connections with other routes. It's very difficult when your bus only comes once an hour to make connections sometimes. So this is a easy one for us to implement with Proposition 488 funding in August. Questions on that? Okay, this is a minor one. It just highlights the some things, you know, when other construction happens and, you know, it changes the dynamics of Mountain Line's operations. So as many of you probably know, this summer, the city will embark on a project to add a roundabout at 4th and right? so many roundabouts. I want to make sure I get the right one. Right by MEMS. And so there will be significant disruption to Route 7, which is that purple route there during construction, which we are planning for now. But long-term, stop 16, which is right as, you know, you turn right from Lockett onto Forest, heading south on 4th Street. Our operations and safety teams deemed that it was just going to be too close to the exit of that roundabout. When you have a roundabout situation, you have people who are coming out with speed that they don't typically have on a right-hand turn when you have to make a stop at a red light first or a stop sign. They're coming with a different kind of speed. And we felt that stop 16, the location of it was just too close to the exit of that right-hand turn for the roundabout. And there was too much potential for collisions, rear-end collisions with the bus. So we are proposing to move it just a little bit south to Dortha, which actually much better aligns with that Hawk signal that crosses 4th Street right by North Country Healthcare, and sets us up for the future. We know we want to better serve 4th Street in the future with transit. Be able to have better connections over to the county health department, things along those lines. MetroPlan is also doing some work in this realm with looking at safe routes to school and things like that. So this is just a minor change we're making right now. But I would anticipate in coming years there will be bigger changes to the way that we serve 4th Street with everything that's happening in that corridor. Questions on that one? All right, last but absolutely not least is Route 5 is exciting, but this one is the best. So Route 8, which right now is a route that just starts at the Downtown Connection Center, and it basically does what the blue line is showing you. So it goes out West Route 66, down Thompson by the old Daily Sun. The Forest Service building is right there, makes that loop around and goes back. It's a really short route. We made it short because we knew that we eventually wanted to do what's in pink. That has always been our plan. It's been a line on a map for a very, very long time, and we just have not had the funding. So this is also Proposition 488 enabled service improvement. So we are proposing that Route 8 would continue along West Route 66, making this. Those are all the stops are all kind of placeholders right now. These are all pending final ADOT approval, and then would go down Woody Mountain Road, and it would just make that one stop on the further side of the road before using the roundabout to come back around. The reason for just one stop is it doesn't take very long to go around the roundabout, But the ultimate goal of Route 8 in the future would be to go all the way around. We're not showing it here, but there's further development with the Timber Sky development. There's a Habitat for Humanity development out there. So we would ultimately like to go, make a much bigger loop around, a one-way loop. So that's why there's only one stop on one side of the street. So a couple things about this one. I feel like this is my metro plan, is also engaged in a corridor study of West Route 66. Everything that we're doing here on West Route 66, those proposed stops are considered temporary. Temporary has we're not sure what the definition of temporary is right now. Clearly this is not the best road. If there's not a lot of improvements along the side. There's not a lot of sidewalks. There's, a lot of things need to be done to make it a more comfortable road for pedestrians, people who are using the bus. But we don't believe it's in the community's best interest for us to wait for those improvements to be made when we know that they are fill in the blank years away, more than we are comfortable with the amount of time that we have had this route planned, and the amount of people who are now living out in this corridor and who deserve quality transit access. So a lot of our messaging with this route is going to be riding around as opposed to running across the street. So for instance, if you live in Railroad Springs and want to go towards downtown, most likely that's what you're gonna wanna do. You're not gonna wanna go out to Presidio unless you've got a friend out there to visit. Our recommendation is going to be that you get on at the stop closest to Railroad Springs on that side of the street and ride around. It's a pretty short route. You're talking about maybe an additional 5 minutes of riding and a lifetime. So that's going to be a lot of our messaging around Route 8 is riding around as opposed to, because we know that crossings are non-existent currently on that road. So once a corridor plan is finalized, Mountain Line's playing a significant role in that, we will have permanent bus stop infrastructure. We don't want to go pour a bunch of concrete. We will have to pour a little bit of asphalt for some of these, but we don't want to go pour a bunch of expensive concrete and put up shelters and then have to be torn out in 5-8 years, whatever it's going to be. And we also think that's a great use of finances. So we are going to kind of stay in this temporary status, maybe adding some lighting where necessary, as lighting on that south side is not great. But that is the plan for Route 8. Does anybody have questions about that one? So just to sum up things, so you guys obviously don't vote on the TAC does not vote on opening up the public comment period, but once it's open, we will issue a press release. We'll have bus stop signage out at many of the bus stops in the areas that are going to be impacted by this. We will do a mailer to residents in the areas that will be impacted by these changes, and then do social media. We take comments via mail, phone, social media, email, however people want to provide comments. We'll then track all of those. If something is, clearly not settling well with the public, then we will reassess what we're doing when we come back to the board to close out the public comment period. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jackie? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next item is the amendment and restated master intergovernmental agreement, the IGA, and Heather is presenting it.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Transit Advisory Committee. I think we did not include the documents in your packet. So I did want to just spend a few minutes highlighting the things that we are going to be asking the board to consider as changes to our amended and restated master IGA. And just briefly, the history, the original master IGA was signed in 2006. We did sign a amended and restated IGA in 2013. Since then, we have amended that IGA one time for liability insurance requirements. And now we are proposing to just do a complete redo of the IGA again, just to clean up the amendment and add the language we were discussing in regards to our rights as property owners. Our legal team has gone through that agreement with a fine tooth comb, and they're actually recommending several changes. So on screen, I do illustrate some of those changes. If you would like a copy of the red line, I'm happy to share it with you if you'd like to review it. But I've tried to just stay focused on what are what I call impactful or significant changes. I didn't try to capture every comment or period or formatting change. So Mountain Line has been added as a party to the IGA. In past, we have not been a party to the IGA. Our partners have been the parties to the IGA, and legal is saying now is the time to add us because we do operate as an agency in that agreement. We too are responsible for those agreements. We've condensed some of the recitals around the prior relationship with Sedona, Cottonwood, and Yavapai County. The reason we've kept it even in the IGA is because we think it's significant to the story of why we are IPTA. We recognize ECC joined NEPTA in 2013. That was part of the restated master IGA, so we've now added it into the recitals. The modified section 2, names and authorities, this is really the work that was done to add the recognition of what our rights and authorities are as a property owner. Again, happy to share that language if you'd like to review it. We did modify section 8.1, survey of public transportation, mostly because there was a lot of details that were prescriptive, and instead we want to reference the Arizona Revised Statute 289123, which has the requirements that Mountain Line must observe to do transportation surveys and transportation planning as an IPTA. Didn't want to create a gap if those regulations change. We modified section 11, which is about the Transit Advisory Committee, mostly because since the Master IGA was first conceived in 2006, and since it was restated in 2013, we've done a lot of work to put the details in the rules of procedure. So we're proposing to move it from the Master IGA and put it and just reference those rules of procedure. Modify section 16. This is to capture the amendment for insurance that was done since 2013. And the last one was we removed fax numbers under the notices section of the IGA and replaced it with emails just to make our document relevant. So this is the action that really our legal team has proposed, and it's meant to capture what we have the right to do as property owners. This is in light of the conversation about the property we own here that's vacant and what we might do next. There's an assumed authority, and we want to just capture it to be really clear and avoid potential challenges on what we, the transit authority, can or can't do in relation to that property. So we will be asking the board to consider these changes and adopt that, and then authorize myself and our legal team to maybe make further changes or edits that are insignificant as requested by any of our partners during their review process. So at this time, this has not gone to any of our partners for review. And so we wanted to capture the timing of getting this with our board and still needing to go to those partner agencies. With that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Heather?
Yes, this is Carol. Quick question. I'm thinking about the way this is received by other agencies, and I'm wondering if it wouldn't be appropriate to say proposed modifications instead of stating that these are modifications that have been made, just as a tactical terminology suggestion.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing, Heather, I wanted to suggest is in the staff report, I didn't see a definition of IGA, and although I guessed close to what it was, I had to go back to the agenda to find out what it actually was. And I thought, well, it'd be good if you could just put it in the title or something.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you on that topic, Heather. The next one is organizational structure review. So Heather.
Great, thank you. So Mountain Line has embarked in an organizational structure review. And I think I shared during current events last month that normally this is not an item we would bring to the board for adoption and consideration. But the reason we are doing it now is because we anticipate this to be the framework necessary for all of the Prop 488 changes in the future of our transit programs here in Flagstaff. Unfortunately, the project has been delayed and I don't have the final reports. I don't have recommendations to share, but I thought I'd take this time to share with you what we are really looking at. So on this screen is a brief look at our entire organizational structure. It is kind of hard to read, so I'm going to zoom in on the sections for you. So in this block are several positions and work teams that were impacted by the change to the management services director position. That position is now vacant, and the financial manager, Josh Stone, and the team that report to him have been moved to the deputy general manager, but it left these positions and these work teams without a lead in our org structure. They're currently reporting directly to me, so it's not that they don't have any support, but just in the org structure itself, we've intentionally left that position vacant. Additionally, we had a planning director at one point in time. If you will recall, Kate Morley served as our planning director / deputy general manager before leaving us to go to Metro Plan. And that position really supervised some of the team that you can see on this screen, as well as some team that has already been moved to the deputy general manager. And we're questioning whether that is an accurate structure, considering the things that we have in our future going forward. This is the deputy general manager's work team. As mentioned, it did grow. We moved the planning manager to this work team when we eliminated the planning director position. And again, the finance work team moved here last fall. The operations work team is our largest work team. It's about 75% of our workforce. The structure within this team has unfortunately been in flux for the last several years because we've had vacancies in different positions really since early 2020. We continue to have vacancies in the transportation superintendent position. That's been vacant roughly 6 months now, as well as our transportation supervisor position. We have 7 of the 10. And part of the reason we have 7 of 10 is you'll see the X on the scheduling coordinator. It's because we eliminated that position and we moved the person that was in it into one of the transportation supervisor jobs, just a realignment of duties. And we've had a very long vacancy in one of our mechanic positions. So again, as part of the org structure, it's looking at, are all of these the right positions to create the support needed as we move forward and grow our programs? The last work team is our workforce director, responsible for HR, safety, training. And so you can see here the structure. The safety coordinator position was created roughly 12 months ago. It is still not posted, so it is considered vacant, but we know it's a support system that we need with the changes that we're seeing in federal regulations and even within our own work team. So I will just review the things that we have asked to be done as part of the org structure is ask the question and certify, do we refill the management services director? And if we don't, what happens to the work teams like IT? Should we reconsider having a planning director? In light of changes we've recently seen announced by our federal administration, should we have someone dedicated to grants management? We anticipate that applying for grants is not going to be as easy as it used to be, and we need to plan for the complexities that we believe will be added to that process. What additional structure and support is needed within our operations team? Like I said, we're at 50 operators right now. We plan to grow that by 20 or 30 more over the 5-year period. And is the structure we have the right structure for that planned growth? And then lastly, I'll just reiterate, there's a lot of regulatory matters that have changed in the last couple of years that we anticipate continuing to change. Safety and safety oversight, grants compliant, and of course, we are still working on zero emission. And what does that adoption look like and impact our team? So asking our team of experts, what should we be doing as we think about our work structure for that long term? So again, I apologize that I don't have a report to share with you. I did not want to neglect giving you some sort of update on what we were doing with this project, because ultimately we will still be asking the board to approve any recommendation because it's so important to the final workforce budget numbers. We don't want to delay that step in our budget process. So with that said, that's everything I have to share with you, but I'd be happy to go over any point again or answer any questions that you have.
Any questions or comments for Heather? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next one, compensation study.
So the compensation study, thank you, Chair Stoll, is similar to the organizational structure review in that we don't have final results. These two projects started stepping on each other a little bit because it was a little bit of the chicken and the egg, which one comes first in making decisions about how these reports flow. And so when we asked for them to add the organizational structure, we accepted that there would be some additional delays to the compensation study. I wanted to just highlight a few things. The compensation study really ensures that we are complying with our own compensation and classification policies, which is to do that study every 3 to 5 years. And the last one was completed in 2019, implemented in 2020. Actually, it was mid-2020 before we adopted it. Implemented it. Competitive wages are very important to our staff, and I think we can all look at the change that we were able to achieve by paying operators an increased pay starting in July. We're fully staffed today. We've been fully staffed for almost 6 months. So we know pay contributes significantly to attracting, but it also contributes to retaining, which is our goal. And then, you know, recent increases in Flagstaff minimum wage just continue to require us to have a continuous look at our wages and compensation study. So the study will include an analysis of all of our positions. They do consider cost of living. That was really important. We stress that over and over and over again, that it costs more to live in Flagstaff than it does other communities. So if you're going to compare us to Phoenix, you have to adjust for that cost of living here. They are using paratransit agencies, but they are also using our local government agencies. They're looking at benefit packages, not just wages, to ensure that we create the right compensation structure. And the last thing that I'll share is that the preliminary update, we hope that the board will have the final information to be able to adopt it and allow for us to develop an implementation timeline. Again, because that's important to the budget, but we will bring all of this information back to you. And I failed to recognize that in the comp study. Both of these reports will come back to you as TAC as final reports so that you too understand what was presented to the board and what they authorized us to do. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know it's a very high level review and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Thank you, Heather, for all of those items. Next, we have the FY26 workforce budget and Josh.
Thank you. Morning all. All right, so today we're going to start looking at the budget we've developed for the upcoming fiscal year, which will be 2026. This is the start of sort of several months of education efforts we'll complete throughout the spring. We'll break down the budget into various categories and review any proposed or required changes. Should be hopefully more digestible this way instead of spending like an entire meeting as a budget review. We don't ask for any action at this time, but we would welcome any feedback that you have. And then at the close of the spring, action to adopt the proposed budget will need to occur in June. So with that, we're going to move into the workforce component of the budget. Supporting our staff is obviously the largest and probably most important piece of our operating budget. The workforce budget is around 80% of our total operating budget. So we're gonna just start right in with the top line. Our total workforce budget for 2026 is proposed as $9.6 million. This is about a 13% increase over the current fiscal year. The largest element of that increase, Heather discussed briefly, is a change that was made after the adoption of the current fiscal year's budget to reposition, I guess, the competitiveness of our operations staff pay ranges with a $5 an hour increase. I think the plan maybe is to have a more formal presentation on the success of this change at the close of the year. But Heather mentioned staff has turnover has stabilized. We're able to return the entire system to full service in the fall, and the average amount of overtime per bus driver has leveled off and is on the decline, I guess. So we also made a policy change update in the last year to change overtime from the federal labor requirement of 1.5 times base pay to 2 times base pay. So that's kind of built into that operations change there. So next, this is our primary thing we're going to stare at for a while. This chart is basically the entirety of the workforce budget. So we're starting with the FY25 base salaries and benefits at about $8.5 million. You can see the largest part of the increase on the FY26 side is the reddish color. It's a different color than it is on my computer screen. But that's the previously mentioned adjustment to reposition the operations team. That's about $700,000. So that's the biggest slice of the adjustment increase over last year. The little green sliver is a placeholder of around 90,000 for adjustments related to our compensation study. Heather said, talked about that a little bit. Other staff primarily outside of operations already had a large adjustment, but outside of operations will sort of be repositioned to more appropriately space the pay grades outside of operations. Then we're going to skip the purple sliver for a moment. That's just an increase in benefits. Talk about that shortly. And then the top segment is it's over $200,000. And his pay plan for existing employees. We have aligned our annual increase for the vast majority of employees to be effective July 1, so everybody will have the same date for that. And then there's also merit-based incentives quarterly throughout the year. And then we are also increasing our full-time employee count ever so slightly to assist with the expansion of routes and increased frequency of routes, as well as minor staffing adjustments related with the administrative move to the downtown connection center. So there'll be some customer service adjustments related to that. So we're going to go back to the benefits. That little benefit sliver was about $100,000. This is a change across all benefits that we offer. Mountain Line is a participant in the NAPEP, the Northern Arizona Public Employees Benefit Trust, where everyone pools our resources to hopefully provide competitive benefits amongst all the public employers. Our benefits are the same as the city and the county, CCC, some other public employers. Each employer sets their own subsidy contribution to premiums based on their own budget capacity, but the benefits offered are usually the same. So This year, vision and dental are seeing some minor changes. I don't think there's been any changes of those for the last several years. So both of these are very relatively low cost, like vision is 80 cents per employee per month for a base plan. Mountain Line does pay 100% of the premium for employees in a single person base plan for vision and dental. At the moment, also for medical. We're gonna change that slightly with medical, but employees can also choose coverage for partners or additional family members. This is at the employee's cost for vision and dental, but as I said, it's fairly minimal cost for those particular benefits. For medical, the NAPEP board has set an average of 1.5% increase to medical premiums for the next year. The health insurance market overall, I believe, has a larger projected increase. I don't know off the top of my head, but NAPEP has a very strong reserve balance and is able to absorb some of that increase. So that's being leveled off a little bit. Not mentioned here is Arizona State Retirement System. Mountain Line employees are public employees. And with the exception of very few employees with a minimal number of hours worked are required to enroll in ASRS. So the state sets contribution rates for each fiscal year. They do fluctuate a bit each year. FY26, the state has set 12% of gross contribution, gross pay by both the employer and the employee. 12% is, I think, about a quarter of a percentage point below the 2025 rate. But any savings from that decrease will be absorbed into, by increased pay and other things elsewhere. So there doesn't end up really being terribly much savings to us there. We do have an array of other benefits that are part of the expenditures of the workforce budget. Most of those are summarized in your staff report. If I'm not listing them here, I'd say the most significant of those are that we do observe 13 holidays. We offer a variety of types of paid time off, which are, earned by team members over time and scaled with the length of service. So those are similar to other public agencies around. So that is really all I have as a summary of the workforce budget proposal. So if anybody has any comments, questions, complaints, we may or may not be able to address them.
Any questions or comments for Josh? Thank you, Josh. Next, we have zero emission bus transit plan update, and that's busy.
Mr. Saul, members of the Transit Advisory Committee. So you should be familiar that we have a ZEB plan, a zero emission bus transition plan, ZEB plan. We completed that in 2020, and that was adopted by the board following completion. It evaluated our current hybrid buses, also fuel cell and battery electric buses. And what we found from that analysis is that battery electric buses was the option with the lowest incremental cost and the highest emission savings. And to be specific, the battery electric bus has either depot only, where it's just charging here at Caspar overnight only, or on route and depot charging. So throughout the day, we'd be charging, and that lowest cost, highest emission savings was the battery electric with on route and depot charging, so that combo. We identified the downtown connection center as the main location of charging with 8 chargers originally identified. And we did identify two pantograph chargers here at Caspar headquarters as the depot charging to top off at night. And that was our original plan. Since then, we've had some very exciting changes. So that was 5 years ago. I learned yesterday at a meeting that we should be updating this every 2 years. That was the first time I've actually heard a kind of refresh timeline on our ZEP plan. So we're a little delayed, but I think we're right on time based on our knowns. So we learned about a lot of constraints about our downtown connection site once we really dug in. When we first did the ZEP plan, we thought it's a blank slate, we can do it all. And we cannot. Now that we know about space, weight, and timing constraints due to the Rio de Flag flood mitigation project that overlaps that downtown connection center site, we can really like drill into details and understand more what can we accommodate there. Also, technology has improved. Just in the 5 years, bus batteries have increased their capacity, which results in more miles on the bus. And also more charger options. We didn't even look at inductive charging in the first plan. There weren't any standards for it. There still aren't very many standards, but it's a more feasible option now. More agencies are using it. So again, just technology has changed in 5 years. Our timelines have changed on our facility and fleet projects. And those are more well-known. We know that we're going to improve our maintenance facility here. We know that we're, expanding. So just more timelines are clear so we can plan for that in our ZEP plan or include that in our ZEP plan. And then since we started this project, we've already had a new change. Proposition 488 has been passed. We did not include that in the original project. This ZEP plan update that I'm going to talk about. But the nice thing is, most of our improvements of Prop 488 are our existing routes, so we know what that looks like. It's increasing frequency on our existing routes and then a couple expansion, like the Route 8 expansion, that we will have more technology to help us analyze that moving forward. So feel pretty good about not having that. And again, we're going to do more refreshes on the ZEP plan moving forward. So this is our working document for the next couple of years. So we started the ZEP plan update earlier this year. There's a Clean Bus Planning Award available through the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation that we were awarded, and they subcontract with Center for Transportation and the Environment, or CTE, which is the same vendor that we used for our first ZEP plan, which is great. We're really pleased working with them, excited to work with them again. So we kicked off this project in November. We got to see initial results of the analysis in December, and still in January. Now here in February, we're getting into the final recommendations. I don't have everything yet. And so I will be bringing that back to the board. Again, I didn't identify board items, let me note that. But in May is the next board presentation. So I'll be bringing final recommendations back for the board and asking for adoption in May. Our participants in this project, we have Mountain Line stakeholders making the decisions. We did include representatives from all the divisions. So it's a nice large group of us, which is great. And we also included frontline staff from operations, fleet, and facilities, which is just nice for all of us to hear it. It's a lot over a lot of our heads, that's for sure. But as long as we're having the conversations together and kind of hearing those trade-offs, I think we're making the right choices for the plan moving forward. I wanted to mention on the last slide, this grant is free. So this whole project is free through that Clean Bus Planning Award. There is no local match, which is really great. So I want to make sure to point that out. And then another participant we have is the Arizona Public Service, APS, our utility service. They are more listening. They're not weighing in on decision making, but they're also providing utility information. It's good for them to hear the trade-offs for us. Because they have their own interests and would love us to be doing our electric bus system one way, but understanding like we have to make decisions based on all of these things. And so it's good for them to hear that. And have been incredible partners throughout this whole process, I will say, and love having them participate in this ZEP plan update. Great. And then scope of work. So again, exclusion, we are not looking at the service expansions funded by the Prop 48. But again, we will be covering those in a future refresh, in time to be implementing those. We're also now looking at fuel cell again, because there have not been any changes since the 2020 ZEB plan to impact its costs or emissions. We still are looking at Las Vegas as the closest fuel cell recharging place. The fuel cells would then be trucked by semi-truck here using emissions. We would have to store them on site, all of these things. So it was higher cost, higher emissions, nothing has changed. It still doesn't make sense for us. Current situation, again, in 2 years, maybe all of that is completely different. Our ZEB plan sections that are going to be updated are listed here, but overall, we're just trying to provide a clear picture of why, when, where, and how much it's going to cost year after year, so we can really implement that in our financial plan, anticipate it in our capital planning, just have all of those very clearly outlined for us. So, some preliminary results that I can share today. It's not complete, but we are confident in what we're showing here. So this is all of our service blocks, which is what one vehicle can do in one day. So let's see, on the far right, you can see 302 is our very largest service block. That's the second bus on Route 3 that goes on 302. You can see that it takes over 600 kilowatt hours to operate. And the various colors of these blocks is when we can actually do that with a bus that has a large enough battery capacity. So it's great that CTE can really plan for how big and at what time bus battery capacities should increase. And so that's reflected in the colors. So what we can do today is on the left, we can do 4 blocks with our current 2 buses that we have in service. When we get the next 4 buses in 2026, next year, that are on order, we can do an additional 2 more blocks, so that increases. So this is all of our blocks as they stand today. I will also mention that we are looking at adjusting our service blocks so they better fit our electric buses because of what you see here today. Basically, it's going to take a long time for our buses to be able to do all of our service blocks. And so in that, it just means we can only run on certain areas with our electric buses, or we would have to swap electric buses throughout the day to complete those blocks, or do a midday charge. So those are our various options to complete our services with electric buses, and this plan will identify how to do that. So this is showing a depot only. So I mentioned there's 2 ways that a battery electric bus can operate, either a single charge being charged at the depot, like here at Casper headquarters. In this scenario, we would need an additional 15 buses to complete our service over this full transitionary period. So that is a bit of a impossible scenario for us because we cannot store that many buses in our area, either with our current facilities or with our future planned facilities. And we know that storing our buses overnight gives us the best efficiency on those batteries. It really helps us. It's very important to us, increases the life of our buses, etc. Key. So plug-in, basically depot only isn't possible with what we have available today, which means we need to charge on route. And so this scenario is showing with the existing fleet, 34 vehicles, how that transition looks over the years. The red is our diesel hybrid. You can see that transitioning out by 2040 when we're fully electric. The green is a depot only charging. So those would be the buses that are only charged at night, can do a full block throughout the day, a full service block on a single charge. And then the blue boxes are on route charge buses. You can see basically we're saying in 2027 will be the first time that we will be on route charging based on this plan. So again, very, very helpful for us to plan financially, plan operationally, etc. This is a cumulative cost comparison. So we are looking at, we have our baseline, our dark blue. So if, just currently today with our 2 electric buses, the remaining hybrid fleet, we could expect a cumulative cost of $38.2 million by 2040. If we were to do just depot only, you can see $86.8 million. That's due to the 15 additional buses, a lot of cost. And then you can see scenario 2, the depot and on-route charging is a lower cost. So again, we're just confirming that our original findings in 2020, we still need to do on-route charging, even with the battery capacity technology improvements. It's still the lower cost option. It makes sense to us for us to be doing it this way. So that's really helpful to just reconfirm all of our assumptions in that way. So that's all the preliminary results I have now. There's going to be a lot more later in May when I present again. But again, here we are, we're just looking at the final recommendations this month. We should be having a draft ZEP plan next month. And then by May, coming back with final results to the board and asking for adoption. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Oh, sorry, one last item is just federal executive orders. I just want to mention our project is not in jeopardy. We did get confirmation from our vendor. They're not looking for jobs, so they feel confident that this project is going to continue. That made me feel a lot better. Thanks.
Question, David.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Great information, great presentation. I would suggest the slide with the blocks
Yep.
just goes away. It's way too dense. I don't know about anybody else, but I could not follow that at all. I mean, really, like, at all.
Okay.
So, but I think all the rest of the information was really useful and painted a great picture of where you're going. So just to make that comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Cindy?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, but I need to take a
Thank you. Yes, Michelle?
Hi, this is Michelle. I just wanted to say, it's more of a comment, that I really appreciated your presentation and I found it very fascinating. And I look forward to seeing the final. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Next is progress reports. The first three, we do not have any presentations. Information was in your packet. If you have any questions or would like to see these move to an agenda item, please let me know and we could have that for future meetings.
Absolutely.
Seeing none, we'll go to the last one, which is the summary of current events. And that's
Great, thank you. Since we have a few minutes, I believe we got it done in an hour. We have just some highlights on the current events report that's in your packet, and I have a couple of things that didn't make the report that I wanted to share with you. So I know you have a DCC progress report, but photos are worth 1,000 words. So here is our solar arrays that have now been placed on the rooftop of the building. The one on the left is the lower line of the roof. I don't know what they call it, but it's one closer to the street. That area where you see the scaffolding, that's actually an employee break room area that's outdoors between the two roof lines. So the picture on the left is the lower roof line, the picture on the right is the upper roof line. We do anticipate that this solar field will change our costs for electricity significantly. I don't think it's going to be offset. And then we now have some finished views. And I know many of you toured the building and it was hard to visualize because we have construction equipment everywhere and materials. So I wanted to share some of the cleaner spaces. We're still doing finishes to these spaces, but a lot of the construction material has been removed. So this is the employee break room upstairs on the second floor. That window that you see there is the same window that had the scaffolding in front of it in the prior picture. So that is that. We will be kind of between the two buildings looking outdoors. This is the upstairs area. This is when you come from the west end of the building to the east end of the building. Just a bridgeway. On the left-hand side, there will actually be a counter there so staff can sit and work in that space and look outdoors. Both sides of this area is complete windows. So lots of natural light coming in. This is the board room downstairs. So this is where we will hold our future meetings. I wanted to share this image, which is that same kind of bridge with our interior stairwell, but the round yellow colored fixtures in the top, those are actually gonna be solar tubes. Once the building is complete, those solar tubes will drop down past the bridge and the stairwells to bring sunlight all the way to the first floor of the building. This is our front entrance to the building. So remember, we focused on elevated or gradually
Gently sloping sidewalk.
gently sloping sidewalks, previously known as ramps. But we have focused on that over stairs, so there's no grand staircase in front of our building. There is a staircase, but not a grand staircase. And instead of focusing on this feature, each of the boxes between these gently sloping sidewalks will have a garden, plant life, native plants to Arizona, and make a really attractive front end. And once you come inside, this is our lobby. So we can now really see the workspaces that people are gonna be in, and we're very excited. We just got an update. We are now estimating substantial completion to be done on April 7th, with a certificate of occupancy on April 25th. We do have a couple things that need to happen after we have certificate of occupancy, including the art glass installation. Art glass installation will be prior to the certificate of occupancy, but we need to have all the furniture moved in. So between certificate of occupancy and our move-in, we have all of the furniture, the IT equipment, the AV equipment, all being installed. We actually plan to have move-in 100% complete by May 16th. So we're very excited. That date is coming fast, and it's just really fun to see the progress being made, and Anne is so gracious to share these photos with me every week. Wanted to share a little bit about ridership. It always has been a story. We keep saying, we're not pre-COVID, we're not pre-COVID. Well, we're not pre-COVID, but I'm happy to report we are seeing an average of a 10% increase over the same periods a year ago. So we are seeing ridership increasing. In December, it was a 12% increase. And Busy just shared with me prior to this meeting, and I didn't get captured in the presentation, that we're seeing as much as a 50% increase for this period of time on Route 10 during the weekdays from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. So that contributes to these numbers quickly. If you want to remember, NAU ridership, and it's not quick to return because we were in reduced service, has really been an impact on our return of ridership. So glad to share these numbers with you. Caspar Maintenance Facility. I wanted to share these two images with you. The current events in your packet does say that we held a hearing, we had public input on our project, and then we went to City Council this week because we were required to get a variance. We have one long wall of our project. It is in the picture on the lower right-hand side. It's where the ramp goes up the side of the maintenance facility and onto the parking that is planned for the top of the building. That wall is 133 feet long. And because of what it is, a ramp, it is a continuous wall. There was no way to meet city code for breaking it up and making jogs and other technical terms that I really don't understand. So the city restricts us to 75 feet. We needed 133 feet. The good news is City Council supported our need for this project, but I wanted to share with you a little bit more detail of what that was. Our public hearing, or our public meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago on the 22nd was really to answer questions from the public. Most of the questions were not about our Caspar maintenance facility. I think it's fair to say 99.9% of them, or what are we doing with the vacant parcel? So we have heard no negative feedback on what we intend to do. We're pretty excited to bring this project to reality. And then lastly, wanted to just highlight workforce housing. We've continued with this conversation. We most recently met with City of Flagstaff. One of the potential impacts to the project is what we kept calling the Linda Vista extension, which is an obligation or not to build a roadway that takes Linda Vista from where it currently dead ends, kind of northwest of our property, and bring it, our three parcels, sorry, and bring it all the way down to Caspar Avenue. It's illustrated in pink on this drawing. I want to recognize this drawing is extremely old. That is Bob Sellers Toyota operating where our current service center is, and our bus storage facility is not even on this one. So, but it was a great illustration of the road, so I did bring it in. We did have that conversation with the city. Linda Vista, as shown on plans and regional plans, is a minor collector, which means it will need to have right-of-way dedicated to the city. And it does extend all the way across to our parcels. There is a water sewer impact potentially. There's a water services, a stormwater project plan for this area. And the city is actually working on a Foots Trail in this area as it stands now. We have a small Foots easement immediately adjacent to our bus storage facility that already exists. So the bottom line that we learned in this meeting is that if housing is developed on this vacant parcel, they will have to have 2 points of access. So they need to have two different driveways. It is possible that we serve that requirement by extending Linda Vista from its current terminus to Caspar, but Mountain Line and our developer would be 100% responsible for the cost of putting in that roadway and all of its infrastructure. But the requirement really is 2 entrance points, and so we could consider doing a driveway that goes to where Linda Vista terminates and a driveway to where Caspar Avenue is. And is that a less costly option? So those are the things that we learned most recently in our conversation with the city. Definitely goes into who will be attracted to this project and what financial commitments will need to be made. I will share the roadway improvement cost estimate that was shared with us in 2020 valuation was $10 million. So we'll continue having that conversation with the city. I know one of the things we ask is, this is about building workforce housing. We're already setting up limitations on return of investment for the developer. Is there a consideration that we can talk about sharing the cost of this roadway? And the city didn't have a specific answer to that. And again, I think Mountain Line will look at strongly what's the cost of 2 driveways versus the roadway in order to make this project possible. We think the roadway is important. I just don't know if our project can bear the cost of it. So just wanted to give you that brief update on where we're at with that. I'll pause to see if there were any questions on those, and then I just have a couple other quick announcements. Okay, great. Oh, I had one more, sorry. We replaced our driver barrier doors. So if you'll remember in mid 2020, one of our mechanics, our lead mechanic, created a steel and plexiglass door that was installed to help prevent germs and other things during the pandemic. It also serves as a safety feature. As those doors have aged, they have had performance issues. There have been small employee injuries, cut fingers, etc., from the doors. And so the new buses that came, the electric buses, came with a manufacturer installed door in them, and the drivers loved them. So we went ahead and replaced all the doors. And so this is our new door. This is what it looks like if you are the passenger approaching, and this is from the driver's inside. Some features are that window you can see rolled down in the right-hand picture. So the driver can roll down the window to give themselves more space or to create a more welcoming environment to customers. I boarded a bus recently where the driver had it down, and it was so welcoming and warm from a passenger boarding perspective that they can put it up when they need as well. And then the inside of the door facing the driver's area, you can see they have a door handle. The window is an up-down button. It is not a crank handle. And it does have fans that increases airflow in the driver compartment. So we were glad to make this improvement to our driver area. And before I do anniversaries, wanted to let you know we have an item that will be added to the board agenda that did not make this packet. It is a consent item to approve an updated agreement with our partners for the Northern Arizona Public Employee Benefit Trust. They made some language changes that do not impact us or what we do with them, but the agreement must be reauthorized by the board and signed by the board. So we'll be adding that to the February agenda. We had a follow-up conversation with the development on Lake Mary Road. If you're aware of this, this came up at City Council where there is a project being built that is further south than our current transit connections by about 1.6 miles. We were asked to talk to that developer about potential transit solutions. Since there's no planned transit improvement to serve that area, is microtransit a model that we could look at? We spoke with them. Microtransit will be quite expensive. An alternative is to look at a taxi or TNC partnership that would allow people to use those rideshare programs to get only to the bus route. So we can basically create a geofence so they can't take the taxi beyond those service areas, but it might be a low-cost solution to really ascertain how much participation will this community generate. So we'll continue those conversations and continue updating you, but I wanted to share that with you today. And lastly, the Arizona Transit Association, which is our home state transit association, is going to be having their conference here in Flagstaff, April 14th through 18th. I will send you an email with a link to the webpage and has the agenda. We'd love to have any of you come to any part of the event or sessions. If you see something of interest, please let me know, and we will help get you registered so that you can join us at that event. And again, if you want to come for a meal or a general session, that's also doable. We would love to have you there. And lastly, the 3 February anniversaries that we have not already shared. Andrew is our lead mechanic. He was the lead on those doors that we just talked about. He's been here 16 years. He told me the other day that I thought he started right out of high school. He said he didn't start right out of high school, but it was pretty darn close. He was 21 when he started here. And he's really been key to creating our maintenance programs in our environment. Marvin Chi served here with us for 12 years as a transit operator, a very reliable part of our operations team. We actually had to convince him to take a full-time job. He liked working part-time, but he always worked 60 hours a week. We finally said to him, you know, if you just go full-time, you can have benefits too. So that's quite some years ago, but I'll never forget how hard it was to get him to take a full-time job. And Lisa Connor, she does all of our ADA eligibility for our paratransit program. She does our reduced fare applications on our fixed route side and really is a caring part of our paratransit team and assisting our customers with their mobility needs. And that's everything that I have. But again, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No, thank you.
All right.
Exciting time for the new building.
Yes.
Next is schedule the next meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled to be held March 6th, 2025. Any additions to agenda for next month's meeting from anyone on the TAC? Hearing none, maybe we can adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.